Okay, this is Trophy Dark, part 2 of Blackberry Jam. I want to do a very quick recap. We started the incursion, we did the first 2 rings. We did kind of an expanded version of the first ring, if I'm being honest, from the text. Um, but basically, we saw our 2 characters, Rodri and Orlin. We met them. Orlin is an orphan who sort of won a trip to this little festival in the village of Kavir, won it sort of golden ticket style, right? And it actually turns out that just like his minder from the orphanage, a character named Mr. Pertwillow, maybe, or
Yes.
was it Pertwillow? Mr. Pertwillow was actually there just to hook up with a woman he's been seeing in Kavir, who turns out to be the other character's mother, Rodri. Rodri believes his sister is a sort of a spirit of the bramble, a sort of fey creature. What was the creature again?
It was a Tilwith Teg.
A Tilwith Teg. And we have actually seen a lot of like stuff on screen that there is in fact something weird going on with Diane, your sister. And so you are going, and you wanted to go into the bramble to basically follow her and find out what's going on. And Orlin, his drive is to just run away, basically, right? Just to get away to a new life. And maybe he'll find it in the heart of the bramble, maybe he won't. But in any case, the characters made their way into the bramble after playing some games with some of the local kids, discovered a body of a person who was trying to flee the bramble with more than their fair share of blackberries. Met a strange girl, maybe even a little stranger than Diane, or strange in a different way, who's sort of cryptically warned, especially about the man who was killed, about not to like take too much from the bramble. Continued on, discovered that there is a sort of party of adults, maybe who are not local, maybe some are local, some are not. The man who's leading them is definitely not. The man leading them, Damek, he wants to get to the heart of the bramble. He kind of alluded to the fact that he almost made it there a long time ago, and now he wants to have another go at it. And then there was a fox that sort of, I believe it was Rodri, spoke to and helped, if I'm not mistaken. This fox sort of like made some accusatory remarks about, because Rodri has like harmed foxes in taking care of his family's farm there near the bramble. You both have conditions. Orlin has woody sprouts coming out of his hand, and Rodri is sort of opening up to the bramble, and that he's hearing things that Orlin can't hear. Did I miss anything in the basic recap that is important? Very well then. Let us proceed with ring 3, the gatekeeper. Actually, before we get to ring 3, we ended with a cliffhanger. And the cliffhanger was, I'll remind you, you had gotten past the group of adults, who, by the way, are being led by Diane. But you got past the group, didn't see Diane as you went past the group, just the adults. Turns out you found Diane a little further ahead. Diane was speaking to a strange woman who seems to be sort of like emerging from the bramble itself. Her dress is sort of like covered in vines and things, and interwoven with petals and vines. And this woman, last thing you saw was this woman chewing a mouthful of the blackberry and feeding it to Diane like a bird feeds its baby chick, right? And so that was a thing that was happening. And I think I want ruin rolls from you both. So
You may have to remind me this.
just go to the die roller in the Discord and just do /ruin. So.
Give me a second to find the die roller. Okay.
Also, do I sound okay? Am I like clear and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm having seeing your connection go up and down a little bit, but it's good.
Yeah, I asked because you look like
I
you're
ended
kind of
up with
freezing up
the
periodically.
3.
Okay.
Is it dice that I'm looking for?
Yes.
In
dice.
the Discord.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I'm typing just ruin.
/ruin.
Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Great.
So both of your ruin doesn't go up. I am curious what you think though as you see this. Particularly, I'm curious what you think, Rodri, as you see your sister being fed these blackberries by this woman. What are you thinking? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. Rodri's actually quite excited, which is probably why he passed his ruin roll so aptly, because he's very excited and looks to Orlan and says, Orlan, look, this is a Tilwith Teg in its true form. They steal away good children who would be good, loving sisters and replace them with vile, unpleasant doppelgangers. We must do something.
I am stunned. This is the first thing I've seen of the whole incursion so far. So even though I'm not going to raise my ruin, Orlan is again freaked out by your excitement a little bit too. What is this exactly? And I'm like, I don't want to run forward or move. That's not your sister?
Don't you know? That's the vile aberration who replaced my true sister. If we capture the Tilwith Teg, she can tell us the location of my true sister who's been kept from us all these years. This is it.
And maybe I read some storybooks, so I'm not. Orlan is still stunned.
Calvin, your connection is pretty bad. You might want to either maybe just try to rejoin or do audio only if it continues to be that way.
Sure, I will rejoin the Zoom call.
All right, we'll give you a minute. I'll pause the recording while we're waiting on that. Okay, we're back. So are we hatching a plan here to capture this Tilwith Teg, this alleged Tilwith Teg?
Alleged?
You want to take your sister back, or you want to take that woman back?
Says we must not let that woman get away. She must be the great mother of the Tilwith Tegs.
I would hide my hands from him, or no, I will show him my hands then now. He's kind of come clean with his strange beliefs. I'll say, what, am I one too? What's happening to me? And I will let it finally scare me more than it did.
Yeah, to take a ruin roll, Rodri, for seeing Orlan's creepy twig hands.
Poor Rodri.
So your ruin's still where it's at. Just continue the scene.
Okay. Oh, you have touched the fruit of the Tilwith Teg.
It's from those berries.
Yes.
The berries you smashed in my hands. And then those thorns, they've been growing since we left the body. I can feel them move with the bramble.
I told you not to touch those fruits. They are the fruits of the Tilwith Teg. They are not for the likes of us.
While you're busy having this discussion, you'll notice that both Diane and that woman are no longer there.
No.
Camera move. I will run to the spot then and look for a trace of it, because my boldness comes back when there's no danger present.
Yeah. I mean, are you trying to just like find some kind of like evidence of which direction they might have gone?
Yes, I want to feel. Yeah, it's now just see if we can catch up and
Okay,
see
yeah,
if we can
yeah.
spot them.
I like that a lot. Let's make it a risk roll. So
Okay.
I like what you're trying to do here. Jules, any thoughts on what could go wrong if the roll fails?
True. Well, Rodri very much wants it to go, so good to go well. What could go wrong here? I guess we could draw the attention of. He's the one person whose name I've not written down. The gentleman who's been here before and is looking in the bramble.
Oh, Damek, yeah.
Damek.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's a good one. Drawing the attention of Damek. Or maybe drawing the attention of a dangerous creature as well could possibly happen. Or stumbling into the lair of a dangerous creature.
Because that party might be just behind us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So okay, so then why don't we go ahead and do the star roll then? What do you think about for your dice here, Orlin?
Oh, is he frozen?
Well, I don't have any skills. I think I have the listening and the sneaking, but not like a searching or investigation or anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make a scene using sneaking and listening, I'll take it. I mean, if you can kind of work that into your description of what you're doing.
Right. So I guess based on my personality, then I wouldn't be darting out there. I would be, what do you call it when it's not quite hands and knees? You kind of like a football pose, sort of like scramble forward, keeping my head down to get to the other side of the clearing where they may have, moved back into the bramble.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I like that. And I think that'll probably satisfy like getting sneaking in there for the first light die. Devil's Bargains. What do you think, Jules?
Okay.
Perhaps sort of rummaging through the bramble makes the condition on his hands worse in some fashion.
I'm going to say my offer is no matter what, something shocking crawls over your hands as you're crawling.
Okay. I mean, I'll take Jules. I'll take they grow sort of like longer and more alive around my arms.
Fantastic. And I don't think you're necessarily doing a dark die yet, so go ahead and just roll risk 2.
So that's risk 2, correct?
Yes.
Cool. Ooh.
All right. So that's a 6 light.
Ooh.
And I think, Calvin, I think you must be on some sort of delay or something, because I feel like there's a delay between whenever we're like speaking and hearing you. But if you're there, yeah, 6 light is good.
So
okay, excellent. Sorry about that. I have all my connections here. I moved actually closer to my router, so we should be set.
Well, so go ahead and just describe. I mean, I think you're going to basically pick up on their trail. I'll tell you what you find ultimately, but I want you to just describe like your action here, like you guys kind of like sneaking through the forest or sneaking through the bramble.
Yeah, I like that I scramble forward, and as my hands touch the ground, then more tendrils, maybe I don't want to say another species, I guess. Maybe there's other kinds of plants too that kind of just get attracted and like picked up into my hands, growing up my arms, then beyond my wrists to my elbow and upper arms as I scramble forward. But then I do catch, whatever whatever it might be then that we were looking for.
Well, let me tell you what you see. So you basically find yourself, you see some footsteps. That's basically what you end up following, is some footsteps that are kind of have the sort of thick, viscous, dark purple of like the blackberry juice. And so that's what you end up finding and what you end up following. And that leads to what is a very kind of a clear path. Like for a moment, like it just kind of, the path sort of opens up a little bit. There's not, the bramble's not so heavy. And that path leads to a splendid gate. The gate appears to be made of thorn and vine and berries, like it's the bramble, but like in the shape of a gate, right? And you are starting to really, really be filled, both of you, with this like heavy scent of the crushed blackberries, kind of giving away to like a scent of rot. What has been like kind of a thick and sweet smell is kind of giving away to this rot smell. And you're starting to see, as you kind of go near the gate, little tiny adders slithering about, climbing the bushes and vines all around you. And I think some of these adders have even kind of worked their way into the sort of bramble growing out of your hand, Orlin. And you'll notice as you get closer to the gate that there is a large, quite large, ancient, possibly decrepit viper. Its milky eyes kind of like standing out strongly against the sort of shadowy bramble all around. And this viper is entwined in the portal. The vines and the thorns have started to kind of like grow into its body. And as it moves a little bit, the thorns kind of stick in a little deeper, and every ripple of its muscles sort of cause little dribbles of blood and spasms. And the adder sees you as you sort of come into this clearing in front of the gate. And it says, "Please, clever young masters, bring something to eat. I am hungry, and the little animals don't come to me anymore to help me in my plight. I am thirsty, but not a bug nor a rat will share their blood with me. Help me, and I will open the gate." You both heard it, not just Rodri. That's important. But I'm going to ask Rodri, what do you do?
Okay.
Ugh. I think recoil at both the adder that's writhing round Orlin and this much bigger one. Ugh. Snake. What? How can you talk? How can you speak? What? Am I hallucinating this?
I have always spoken. We always speak. Only now are you beginning to listen.
Do you want my blood?
I'm just so very hungry and so very thirsty. Come close, bring me sustenance, and I shall let you pass.
Is this the gate to the land of the fairies, the Tilwith Teg?
Its milky eyes sort of shift left and shift right. And it says, perhaps yes, yes, perhaps this is true. The snake is quite big, as you'll kind of realize that it's like, I mean, it's probably more size-wise, it's probably closer to like an anaconda, but it's in the sort of shape of a viper, right? It's just very old and ancient. Orlin, what do you do?
Well, I can see that Rodri is tempted by this and maybe inching forward slowly when he says, "Do you want my blood?"
I think I want ruin rolls from you both right now as well.
Yeah,
Let's
that
have
makes
that
sense. I
before we
got it
continue.
from you inching forward, Rodri.
You're both still at 4. Let's continue the scene. So what were you saying, Orlin?
So I think then I would again have hand on Rodri that I sometimes do and be looking around for what maybe where the end of the snake is. Try to trace it with my eyes to find its entire shape.
In order to do what?
I guess I want to see if I would be scared that it might be sort of circling back behind us, the tail maybe. And so we wouldn't have that getaway if we need it.
I would say that you can see the entirety of its body in this gate, which is basically like thorn and vine shaped like a gate, but you can see the entirety of its body in front of you.
Turning to Rodri then, are we going to give this beast an animal? Are you bargaining with the spirit?
It's not. Olin, I made a promise. There are foxes in this area. I'm sure they have blood just as good as ours, but I made a promise not to shed any more of theirs. And you are a good friend, Olin. Your blood should stay exactly where it should be, where it is now.
I agree.
But mine, Snake, how much blood do you want exactly? How much of mine would it take?
I cannot answer this question because I must first be able to smell your blood so that I might better understand how strong it is and therefore how filling it may be. Come closer, and then we shall speak of it. I shall know more then.
I'll step closer.
Oh, gosh.
You step closer, and this ancient serpent, which is a sort of like, I mean, I think the color-wise, it's just sort of like a kind of sort of variegated purple and green, right? It kind of matches the bramble in a way. And the milky white eyes, as you get closer, they have a sort of depth to them. They have a sort of like eternity to them. Like they have seen a lot of things in this lifetime, and maybe more than one lifetime. And the snake is flicking the air around you with its tongue, flicking its tongue around your face, around the sort of hot flashing centers of your body, the warm parts of your body. And I think that there's a bit of a like kind of maybe like a mesmerism going on a little bit, Rodri, as it sort of does this, and you're sort of looking into its eyes. And Orlin, since you're a little bit more like, since you have a little bit more of your wits about you at this moment, you'll notice that the snake is just opening its jaw really, really wide. And Rodri doesn't seem to be responding to this.
Right.
I think the snake is going to eat Rodri. What do you do?
I imagine I had my hand on his, on his sort of shoulder, and when he stepped forward, he kind of begrudgingly pulled me, or I guess unknowingly sort of pulled me with him as he walked forward. And so when I see this jaw open, they're both transfixed with each other. I have brawling, and I have my hands wrapped in barbed straps. I think I want to swing at this giant open mouth and aim for its fleshy inners.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think what could go wrong here is pretty obvious, Rodri. I think the snake could swallow you whole, or maybe swallow Orlin whole. I don't know. But if you have any other ideas, Jules, I'd love to hear it. For what could go wrong.
I guess some sort of grievous wound as well, I suppose, could be possible.
Indeed. So you're getting a light die for your skill, for your brawling skill, Orlin. Devil's bargains.
Right.
My devil's bargain is going to be, no matter what, the snake gets a taste for your blood, Orlin.
Oh, so it would know the metal of my blood then.
Yeah, I'm thinking it just might bite you a little bit, right? So.
Right.
I'm just thinking about the connection between the fact of this huge snake and the smaller snakes writhing around the wooden parts of his arms.
That's interesting.
What if maybe some sort of offspring of the giant snake permanently sets up home inside of Orlin?
Oh, I like that. Ooh, what if, like, just to sort of echo our little scene of the woman feeding the blackberries to Diane, what if, like, the snake, like, feeds you some spawn or something? That'd be kind of amazing. I think that's my offer. I'm revising my offer.
Yeah, I can see that. So if it's, then I sort of be, I would then sort of be arrested in its vision and get.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, who knows how it plays out? I mean, we'll see what the dice say, but
okay,
the ultimate result will be you're having spawn put in your mouth.
So. I'm okay with that too. Yes, I think that's story forward.
Go ahead and do 2 light, 1 dark. Let's see how it goes. Nice. Ooh. 6 light. Great result. Give me just the part up to the point where you sort of rescue Rodri.
Right. I think that I do come in swinging then, and whether I hit it or not will be up for you, but it pulls back at least immediately enough for Rodri to kind of drop out of that mesmered space. And so then I'm just swinging and maybe losing myself a bit in the old like schoolyard, like a little kid. I'm just flailing at it without maybe hitting it.
Yeah,
And
I
then
like
we'll
that.
see what happens when I exhaust myself.
Yeah, I like that. And I think like while you're flailing, so Rodri's pulled back, but while you're flailing, the snake, again, its body is sort of like entwined with the gate. And as it moves, as you hit it, you're sending, like, it's basically sort of like convulsing on the gate because the thorns are in its body and kind of blood is like kind of flicking everywhere, right? And eventually you're just kind of standing there, dazed, tired, almost in a sort of fugue state from having just sort of like reacted so strongly and so wildly to save Rodri, that you fail to see that the snake is dead. It's laying there in the gate, dead. But its spawn is crawling out of its mouth, falling down onto the ground, and crawling up your legs and up your torso. And your mouth is slightly agape, and you're not even aware that the snakes are just sort of like entering your mouth and going down your gullet.
Oh.
And the gate is parting. The death of the snake is causing the gate to sort of like unfurl and unwork. Roger, I'd like you to roll ruin for seeing the snakes go into Orland's gullet.
Or Orland.
How are you feeling, Rodri, when you see this?
Rodri is. I think when Rodri eventually gets his wits about him, which will probably take some time, I'm going to feel a protective urge over Orlan, and this seems to be a theme of me physically manhandling Orlan. I think I'm going to be whacking him on his back like somebody who's choking to get those snakes out of his mouth. Just like whack, in the hope that they'll just vomit out of his mouth.
I think you can be doing that. I don't think it's going to do anything. But I kind of like the scene before you realize that the gate is open. I just like the scene of this dead snake just laying there, and Rodri kind of like in a daze, and you just like sort of like punching him in the stomach, trying to get him to like heave it up. And then the two of you just sort of collapsing onto the ground, right? And by the time you come round, realizing, oh, like the way is clear. We can go now. Let's just have that moment as you sort of come out of that sort of like very heightened state.
It'll be okay, Master Orlan. I'm sure those snakes will come out of your mouth in time. It's all going to be okay. Don't worry about a thing. We're just going to walk into this. Is it the mouth of a snake that we're walking into?
No, it's like it's just the path beyond the gate, basically. Okay. Yeah.
We're just going to head over there, and it's going to be all right.
I am climbing up you to stand, I imagine, until I have my feet. I feel those things sort of churning inside me. I feel, those tendrils still sort of moving and alive, and maybe I can see almost like I feel almost like it's connecting, right? The inside and the outside, and like the snakes are the bramble are the snakes, and maybe I'm wondering if I'm a Tilwith Teg and I got sort of left on a doorstep somewhere and some other kid got kidnapped and might be having fun, some like through this gate or something, and maybe I'm feeling now more connected to this place than I thought, and wanting to go forward with a little bit less fear than before, but still apprehension.
Love it. Beyond the serpent's portal is essentially a tunnel kind of formed from the bramble. So like imagine a kind of archway overhead with blackberries overhead and vine and things. And this tunnel, you're walking down it for a while and it's getting darker and darker, even though, you know, darker than it should be. I mean, even though it's starting to be dusk, but it's still getting to be, it feels unnaturally dark. And eventually, though, the blackberries start to get a fluorescent quality, and they're starting to illuminate the tunnel with this sort of like delicate, almost purple light as you're making your way through. And even though the tunnel is illuminated by the fluorescent glow of the blackberries, it still feels like it's getting darker and darker. And eventually, all you can really see is just blackberries and the dark tunnel, and you're vaguely aware of each other, but it's like you're going into a different space. This tunnel is like a liminal space. And you start to see some motes of light bouncing around. These motes of light have a sort of blue glow. They're at the end of the tunnel and they're beckoning you. They're not saying anything, but they're clearly trying to draw you in. They want you to follow. And the soft song of the brambles, Rodri only here, the song is becoming, it's becoming more audible. You can hear it more clearly, but it's becoming indecipherable. Before, the song sounded like words, or it was trying to say things to you, and now it's like it's singing in a different language. I would like for you both to make a ruin roll right now. You're both fine. And that will conclude ring 3. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back into ring 4. Ring 4. The Lady of the Bramble. The fluorescent passage lit by these luminescent berries sort of leads to a twisted cavern. The walls and ceilings of this cavern are all made of bramble, and they're lit both by the fluorescent berries, but also forms of children playing in the caverns. They are blue lights, like imagine just like sort of silhouettes, blue light silhouettes of children running back and forth, grabbing berries from the bramble, violently smashing them and dribbling the juice onto the ground. These children are the lost children who have been lost from Kavir and its surrounds over decades and decades, maybe even centuries. A question, Rodri. You recognize one of these glowing blue forms as a child that you used to know, a child that went missing in Kavir. Even though you can't see facial features in the silhouette of this sort of blue character or this blue outline, how do you know it's this missing child? Like, what about their behavior makes you know that?
Let's see. So I think I see one of these silhouettes etched on the cavern's wall, sort of moving through a specific dance. How do you call those? Those like, I'm probably going to use British frames of reference that won't mean anything, but those games that children play, like Pat a Cake, Baker's Man. Do Americans know that one?
Yeah, we have that. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what you call those, but it's like a dance, and then you both do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a specific one that me and Mervyn used to do.
It's like your little secret handshake thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I see the exact dance and the exact sequence. And I think back to, I always thought that Mervyn was out there doing fine somewhere, but that my mother wasn't allowing me to play with him anymore. Indeed. And now I think, what's going on there?
I think before we continue the scene, I'd like for you both to make ruin rolls for just seeing this sort of like cavern space with all these like blue ghost children roaming around.
This dice roller likes us today.
It is being very kind today.
Ooh.
But maybe not so kind to Orlin. Orlin, you are going up. Does that make you a 5 now?
It does, yes.
So here's where I'll pause and tell you the rules of the game. Once you hit 5 ruin, you are now entitled to make the reduction roll. And we're going to do the new version of the reduction roll tonight. You can do something that essentially betrays Rodri in order to have your reduction lowered. It's automatic, but you're going to roll a die to see if Rodri notices the betrayal or not, basically.
Right.
You can do that whenever you want, and I'll give you a chance to do it before I make you roll ruin again. But
smart.
But let's just continue the scene, though. I am curious, though, since your ruin did go up, Orlin, what's so particularly disturbing about all these children? Is it because it's a bunch of children again, or what? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think it would be to recognizing then that children are in danger everywhere, and that the orphanage isn't just such a bad place. There are these orphanages there are children in danger everywhere.
This is like an orphanage, right?
Right. Yeah. And the wide world isn't necessarily any better. There will be danger, there will be, violence or inequality everywhere. It's like I'm kind of struck by this, like just seeing these children that I can, maybe I don't try to reach out and touch one necessarily, but I can tell that they are caught and have been, maybe even the spirit sort of pulled out from them or something. I'm imagining how they ended up here, but struck, by that heaviness of their position.
One of the glowing blue forms, a little girl perhaps, kind of walks up to you, Orlin, and giggles. Like there's something about you that she's finding really funny right now. And she reaches her little blue glowing hand up towards your face and pulls a wriggling adder spawn from your mouth. You just see it stretching out. And she pulls it, and she takes her other hand, which is filled with blackberries, and smashes them together. The snake and the blackberries. And then she runs off like she's played the most hilarious joke ever. This orphanage has a headmistress. It is the Lady of the Bramble. She is an imposing figure, bigger even than most adults that you interact with regularly. She is made of twisting vines and white petals. And she seems to sort of merge and unmerge with the bramble cave wall, where the part of her body that would be like her dress is sort of never quite leaves the wall. And so she sort of like appears and then recedes back into the wall, and then appears again and then recedes again. And she does this over and over again, going to each child and very affectionately, like stroking the back of their blue glowing heads, cooing over them, petting them, soothing them. Rodri, what do you do?
Well, Rodri has a very specific agenda here, and he will approach this fairy-like lady of surprisingly large proportions and say, Mistress Tilwyth Teg, I am here for my sister. I wish to take her back to the normal realms, the mortal realms, and bring her back. Whatever your price, I will pay it.
She says, and when she speaks, I can't emulate it, unfortunately, but imagine when she speaks, it sounds like the voice of dozens of people speaking at once. A voice that is an ancient voice. It's coming from a deep place in the earth. She says, but why take her when you can stay here with her and all of us? We could be your family now.
Well, I'd rather not. Could we just go back with my sister and you can all be happy together
But what
without
if
me?
she does not want to leave? What if she is happy here? What if you could be happy here? Think about everything we could offer you. All the blackberries you can eat. Games all day and all night. No more work. No more killing innocent foxes. You could stay here and be a child forever.
Olin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I would interrupt this like obvious persuasion if I could. Rodri, you have a family. And I'm like flailing my fist up there, like, listen, lady, like show us his sister, and I'll get that protective spirit again too, and sort of break the charm, right? Break the heavy voice and the otherwise silence.
She will say, I'll give you an
be the
opportunity here in a
rascal.
minute, but she will say, do you have a family? Your mother is in love with a man who is not your father. Maybe she doesn't love you as much as you think.
What do you Olin, I trust I trust you, Orlan. What should we do?
And I didn't see anything with his mother, right?
No, you didn't see the thing with
Right.
Mr. Pertwillow. No.
Right.
You
Yeah.
well, you don't know it's his mom. You saw him go talk to a woman, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what were you going to try to do, Orlan?
I guess with that sort of addition there, that jab at him, I won't touch him, I guess, since I'm prickly. Rodri, do you love your mother?
Of course, she's my mother. You have to love your mother. There is no choice.
Then she is your family.
The question is not whether you love your mother. The question is whether she loves you the way I can love you, the way I love all of these children, the way I love your sister.
If you really love his sister, where is she? Where is she having fun?
And she sort of sweeps her hand to the side, and you see a blue glowing figure that looks vaguely Dian shaped, I suppose. And then she looks to you, Orlan, and she says, "You are clearly very brave. You, I can tell, are a special child. You are not one to be bound to one place. You are someone who wants to go out into the world, to see what can be seen, to help people, to explore. I can give you this life. We need one such as you, someone who can go out into the world and find more children."
I guess I would recognize, because I know Diane, that would be his sister. And as she is focused on me, then I like wave him, like, go after your sister, see what you can do, maybe, while I take the brunt of her temptation and probably feel a bit tempted by it, I think.
Well, so let's split you up, because I do want to give you the chance to get your reduction roll. If you want to take it, I think this is probably the moment. Rodri, do you chase after your sister?
Yes.
We'll go to where she's at. So that leaves you alone with the Lady of the Bramble. And she's gently, lovingly caressing you. I think, just to make this a little more interesting, the tendrils coming out of your body respond positively to her in a sort of like they're drawn to her. There's a connection, there's a static, right? What do you say to her in treaties? Or what do you do?
I can reach the world myself. I don't need to be a part of your collection. And maybe the way she was touching the children reminded me of how, like, my headmistress, like, touches her birds that she keeps in cages. It's loving, but it's not free, right? It's not love. So I resist. I can find my own world and make my own way in this place. And yes, I think he will still stay slightly defiant, rather than throw Rodri as an easy bone just yet.
The children are starting to seem a little agitated, and they're starting to, as you're sort of like talking to her and kind of like trying to resist her, and you are, the children are sort of forming a semicircle around you both, around you and the Lady of the Bramble, and they're whispering to you. They're saying, "Please don't make her angry. Please don't say anything or do anything that will anger her.
That would win me over, yeah.
It's so much nicer when she's happy. We want to keep her happy so we can be happy."
Yeah, then I would have the flashbacks about that particular situation. Uh, yeah, I would let her take me at that point then. I would sort of give in to whatever that next phase of her, whether she starts feeding me, whether
Yes.
she pulls me to a different side. I would sort of go in with that, not necessarily to, I mean, because this might help Rodri in a way. So I'm not necessarily betraying him, but I am giving up my defiance.
Absolutely. I think it's a betrayal of the sort of spirit of what,
Yeah.
the two of you are trying to do. Yeah, I think she'll do that. She'll take a couple of berries and she'll chew them and she'll say, "Open wide, little bird." And
I do.
make your reduction roll. If you get lower than 5, your ruin goes down. If you get 6, Rodri knows what you're doing.
So do I type, is there a reduction roll built into this, or I just do a risk roll?
You just do forward reduction. Yeah.
Okay.
No matter what's going down, we're just rolling to see. Okay. So it's going to go down to 4, your ruin, and Rodri won't know about this. So just, you can fill out the scene a little bit if you wish. Like, how are you feeling? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think then he's so caught up with his sister and whatever they might be doing. I'm not making noise. I'm maybe even my tendrils sort of half grow into hers, right? And it like cradles me in a way, right? I'm kind of lifted up off my feet on these growing extensions beneath me, and I get fed like a baby in probably a way I never have been before. So it's quite comforting and warm in a way, right? And I'm like suspended on these tendrils holding me up in her lap.
Let's cut the scene over to Rodri and Diane. So Diane's just standing there. What do you say when you approach Rodri?
So this is a sort of weird ethereal Diane-like figure, is that right?
Yes, I mean they look like silhouettes, but they're blue, right, and they glow.
So Rodri is absolutely convinced that she's going to come back with him. Diane, Diane, you must come with me now. Mother has been waiting all these years. She's desperately wanted you back. You must come quickly. Come. Can you hold my hand? Are you physical?
She says, "Brother, I don't want to go. I like it here. We play every day and every night. And the lady, our mother in the bramble, she's so kind to us when she's calm and unbothered."
But she can't possibly compare to the love of mother, can she?
I must confess to you, brother, I faintly remember what our mother looks like.
I think that's very unjarring, unsettling for Rodri, who's wanted the love of mother more than anything else. And the true Diane doesn't even want it.
Diane says, "Stay here with me, brother. Stay here with us. We have so much fun. We play and we eat the berries, and we play and we make the lady happy."
No, you are wrong. You don't understand. You've forgotten, mother. That's the problem.
I think I want to ruin roll from you right now because your sister's shocking point of view here, I think.
Yeah.
It's going up. You're at ruin 5. You now have access to the reduction roll as well. She says, before you make a decision, brother, play a game with me. I can show you how fun it is here.
If it's quick.
And I think she says, "Let's play hide and seek." And she runs into a deeper part of the bramble cavern. You see her blue form drifting off, but as she leaves, it becomes like a moat kind of bouncing off. What do you do?
No, Diane, no, come back. No, there's no time for this. You have to come with me now. And I'll run after.
Indeed. Meanwhile, back in the sort of central area of the cave where the kids have gathered, and you'll notice, Orlin, you'll notice that the kids keep doing this thing where they're grabbing the berries off the bramble, and they're just crushing them in their hands, and they're letting the thick purple viscous fluid just dribble down into the ground, and it's getting thicker and thicker, and it's starting to sort of like roll down and collect and gather in the center of this chamber, this sort of thick, increasingly thick, heavy pool of blackberry juice. And even you, as you're being fed, it dribbles down off your chin and spatters onto the ground and continues to collect in the middle. Eventually, the lady finishes with you, and she says, "You still have so much to learn about our ways, but in time, you will become one of us, and you will be so happy." And the children are less agitated now as well. And she sort of like invites a number of them to come have a ghostly embrace with her, right? And then she kind of disappears back into the bramble. At this point, you hear a sound. Something coming up from the tunnel that deposited you here. It is the man, Damek, and just Damek. And when he bursts into the clearing of the cave, he has a sword. He is covered in thorns and vines. And the gatekeeper, the sort of terrible snake that you thought was dead, is maybe still dead, is wrapped around his body, and the gatekeeper's mouth is sunk deep into the back of Damek's neck. And as the gatekeeper twitches its serpentine body, Damek twitches. It's a sort of Damek mech. And his eyes are wild, and he's just sort of like swinging wildly at the ghost children. You can't hurt them. They sort of just dissipate and turn back into motes and float off. But he's like, as he's doing this, and he's like just swinging wildly, and he keeps reaching back to try to grab the snake and disconnect the snake from him, but he can't do it. The snake always takes back control. What do you do right now, Orlin?
Well, I think Orlin the betrayal was sort of giving up the mission of trying to help Rodri get his sister out. But I wouldn't have given up Rodri getting out, I guess. Right. But I sort of gave up on helping him with that part of it. As like it's an impossibility. And so I've written that part off, but I think I'm still afraid of Rodri getting hurt. So I would still feel like this is a danger that I need to deal with now as a member of this place. Like it's some kind of intrusion into this place and disrupts the peace, and we'll get the woman mad, we'll get the kids hurt, and like, that part of that abusive relationship between the woman and the children. So yeah, I think I would want to confront this. Could I use my sneaking to try to get to the tail of the snake?
I love that. Yeah, I think it's great. In order to pull it off or something, or what?
Yeah. Or climb up it eventually to then strangle it out.
Yeah, that's great. Love all that. What could go wrong, Jules?
what could even go right from that? uh, uh, I, I guess, I guess he could get entangled and attached to the snake himself.
I think it
Perhaps.
could be something like, I mean, I think it could be more brutal than that. I think it could just be quite simply that, you just catch the business end of Domic's sword, right? Um, take your light die for sneaking. I don't know if you have a ritual that'd be helpful or not, but I like what you've described.
My rituals are helping my
Sharing the
my
ruin.
ally.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so you
any
got one light die.
bargains? Any
Bargains, yeah.
bargains?
My bargain is going to be no matter what, you give birth to the next gatekeeper. That's my offer.
I was going to say that the snakes inside, they start obeying their snake master and start to sort of control you like a puppet as well.
Mm,
I like both of those. Yeah. They're both
yeah.
kind of two different outcomes of a similar thing, I think.
Yeah. I like the giving birth. Could it be not immediate though? Could it be still like a gestation
It could be part
period?
of the epilogue or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then I like that I can that if it does die, I'm that thing that will be the vehicle for its regeneration. Yeah.
Precisely. I think a dark die is necessary as well. So
Yep. So 2 and 1.
complication. So you got a 4 dark. You have to stop because dark is high. The complication is going to be you stop this sort of whatever the snake is doing to Domic, like controlling Domic, but Domic is still active in his own recognizance afterwards. So go ahead and just describe what you do, though. How do you get the snake neutralized?
Yeah, so I think maybe then I get to its tail and I'm able to sort of climb up it and do some damage to it. I'm trying to yank it off. It's probably too large, but I can crawl up it and do enough damage then that maybe it recognizes that I have those snakes inside it or inside me and kind of gives up the ghost, maybe. It's like, oh, this child has sort of given in a little bit and it maybe lets itself go. So I don't actually have to do any of the brutal punching and tearing of it. It kind of goes back to being dead as soon as it lets go of him. It goes back to the way I remember it being when we left it outside.
Nice. I like it. Good. Let's cut over to, we'll come back to that. Let's cut over to Rodri. Rodri, you said you are chasing your sister around the sort of twisty part of the cavern, right? Trying to find her.
Yes. Come back.
You do eventually find her, and you see that she has made her way to a sort of a little overhang that looks back down into that central chamber where everybody else is. And she's on her stomach looking down in there when you finally catch up with her. And she turns to you and she puts a ghostly blue finger up to her lips and says, "Shh."
I think Rodri's gonna just look around him just in case there's some horrible monster about to eat him or something.
Everything's as good as can be, I suppose, all things considered.
And then Rodri's gonna pounce.
You pounce, and you just pounce on nothing because she's just incorporeal.
Ah.
And she says, "I know that one. I've seen him before." She's pointing to the man you recognize as Domic, down in the pit or down in the central cavern area. She says, he came here many, many years ago, and I saw him. I saw him when he was a child. This makes no sense time-wise because she's not that old. But she says, I saw him as a child. He was looking for the heart of the bramble, and he did not find it, but now he has returned. The heart of the bramble always draws us back. She looks at you and she says, you want me to come back home. But the truth of the matter is, I have never been home. There is only the bramble. I learned to face that a long, long time ago. And soon you will too. Mother never could. The ones who are truly lost are those trying to make their lives in Kavir. They are the lost ones. This is their true home, and we'll get them back one by one.
Okay, I think Rodri, wiping away a tear from his eye, he appreciates that this is a lost cause, but he doesn't just want to go back empty-handed or having achieved nothing. And he says, Sister Diane, I realize I cannot take you back. But what do you want? What do you need? Maybe I can help you before I return to Mother and tell her what really happened. Tell me what would make your life better.
Tell Mother that we miss her.
Oh my word.
Make a ruin roll. I'm gonna see if you survive that.
Oh my word. Ooh.
Holding it together. Before you react, I want to cut back over to the other group. Back in the central area of the cave, Dominic has collected his breath, Orlin, and he's like, what happened? Where am I? And he starts to get some sense of recognition. And he says, I've made it. I've made it to the center of the bramble, haven't I? This is it. And he points his heart at the thick pool of blackberry juice collected in the center of the chamber. And he says, I will have its heart. Finally, it is mine. And he lunges for the pool of blackberry juice and plunges his sword into it, and a pit opens up in the center of the cavern, spilling the blackberry juice down and exposing a large pit, a crater area beneath this part of the bramble. And so passes Ring 4. Ring 5 has literally opened up to us at this point. Let's take a 3-minute break. We'll come back and wrap up this incursion. Ring 5. This pit opens up and it begins to subsume everything. It opens up wide. Damek tumbles in. Orlin, you tumble in. Rodri, even the little ledge you're on gives way, and you tumble down. And you fall into a thick sort of gelatin, a thick blackberry gelatin that sucks and draws your body in. And you're both being forced through it, just passing through this thick gelatinous blackberry. And you're being drawn down. Some force is pulling you down. The thick gelatinous blackberry is just filling your mouth and anything other orifices, just filling you. And then eventually you fall through and it deposits you into quite an empty space. No sign of Damek. Just the two of you, covered in thick, dark purple goo. On a stone floor, masoned, you see a fountain with water spraying up in the air. You see an old woman wearing rusted armor and traveling clothes and boots. She's very old. And she has her sword wedged into the stone, standing up. Next to her is a topiary in the shape of a boy. It's a bramble topiary, and it's precariously balanced on a single thick vine popping up out of the stone. The topiary has its hand extended out as if it's asking for something or offering something. It's hard to tell from your distance. And the woman has a rag, and she wets it in the fountain and comes back over, and she begins scrubbing the stone. She says, I've got to make it clean. Got to make it clean. It's never-ending work, this. Never-ending work. And she scrubs the blackberry goo that's dribbled down, always dribbling down seams from above. And she takes it and she dips the dirty rag into the fountain and wrings it out. And you can see it's stained purple. And she goes back, she does it again, and she's cleaning and scrubbing. The space is lit by sconces on the wall, or torches on the wall. And she sees the two of you and she says, well, come on then, let me scrub you. Let's go. Get over here. What do you do?
Do we recognize this person? Does she look like?
I think I want to ruin roll first.
Yeah, okay.
From just this whole sequence of events. Let's have that first. See if anybody succumbs right now. Well, I guess you wouldn't, Orlin, but Rodri might. Rodri did.
Ooh.
6 dark. Rodri is lost to the bramble. But we'll finish the scene. She says, come, let me clean you. And Rodri, I think your ruin is coming from the fact that you realize this is your mom, but she's really, really old. And she's not dressed in a way that you would recognize. She's dressed like an old mercenary or a warrior or something, right? And what do you think? What do you do?
I guess Rodri wants to tell her. He's like, mother, I found Diane, the real Diane. She's just above.
She says, quiet, boy. Dirty boys don't get to speak. Only clean boys get to speak. Come over here and let me clean you.
Rodri listens to the voice of his mother. Always.
She says, good. Come here. And she drags you over to the fountain. She says, a rag's not going to do here. And she plunges you into the fountain. And she's scrubbing. I mean, she's got you like she's scrubbing you with her rag. And the water is getting purpler and purpler. Orlin, what do you do right now? There's the topiary in the room as well.
Right. And I'm thinking, I don't know if it's too late for me to use my ritual here.
To take some of the ruin.
To take his 6th, and then we'd both be at 5 again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think I like the idea of him 6ing out personally. So I feel like that's too late.
And I think it's great to know that your mother all along was one of those changelings, just like your sister too, right? It's just like womp womp.
Maybe, who knows? It's a little ambiguous, right? But what do you do?
Grant, I will then. I guess I recognize that he has now been taken by his mother and is in that pool, then getting.
Well, I don't think you recognize her as his mother for one thing. That's one thing. He only does because it's his mom, but otherwise she's just like an old woman to you that you've never recognized. You do see him there, like being scrubbed in the fountain, and then the topiary. You'll notice that the topiary is in fact holding something in its hand.
Okay.
Topiary is in the shape of a boy, and the topiary whispers to you, and as it whispers to you, the tendrils coming out of your hand quiver and react. The boy says, the topiary boy says, you've come so far. What I hold in my hand, a jewel of a berry. This will give you the freedom you seek. You have but to take it. And indeed, it's holding a sort of red jewel-like blackberry in its topiary hand. Meanwhile, Rodri, as she washes you, your memories are being washed away. Tell me about your favorite memory with your mother. Maybe even your father when he was alive, and your sister when you thought she was normal. Your favorite family memory, what is it?
I think it's the 4 of us sat on a wall, the sun setting, and instead of going to bed like we usually would, we just stayed up for hours, just sharing stories and enjoying each other's company, and just completely disregarding the very, very rigid rules that were set in place. And there's this one occasion where we just sort of told stories to each other, made jokes, and just had a really pleasant time.
And as she scrubs you, the memory gets dimmer and dimmer and fades away. At first, you can't remember what you were all celebrating, if anything, and you can't quite remember who was actually there. and you can't quite remember what you actually did. Did you sing songs? Did you play games? It's unclear. And eventually it slips away completely, and you don't have the memory at all anymore. Nice and clean, she says as she scrubs away.
Poor Rodri.
Back to Orlin and the topiary boy offering the red jeweled Blackberry.
I want to, if you recall before, I had a flashy handmade scarf that was gifted to
I
me.
do remember that, yeah.
I want to pull that off and try to grab the berry without
Oh.
touching it in my handkerchief.
I like that very much. I think that's really good. That's clever. I don't need a roll. That's good. You have the berry, no problem. The boy says, "It won't free you unless you eat it. You have to eat it." Oh, you're muted.
I am looking around the room then for a sign of Damek or a sign of something other than sort of these two figures, the topiary and the washwoman.
No sign of Damek, but I will tell you that the boy's voice, the topiary boy's voice, you'll realize that it's Rodri's voice speaking to you.
Ooh.
Saying, "Eat the berry if you want to be free."
Yeah, I think he's too scared to eat it. Rodri sort of gave up on some things too. I guess I think I'm in a self-preservation mode. I think he still is now maybe shaken enough to say, or to feel that, he doesn't want to be a servant to the bramble woman, to the woman in the bramble. And yeah, he would be scared, and I guess trying to see, let's see if his own tendrils are telling him something or pulling him somewhere.
Yeah.
Now that his emotional state has sort of changed, is there anything then on his body that is moving or something differently now that I grasp this central gem? Has it changed, or berry? Has it changed anything in me?
You don't see the tendrils anymore.
Ooh.
Rodri, the cleaning is finished, and the woman hauls you out of the fountain. You have no memory of Orlin. You only can remember the bramble, really. Let's just have that scene.
I think Rodri sees his sister, his true sister, Diane. And Diane calls to him and says, "Brother, come and play. We are happy that you are here." And Orlin will reply, not Orlin, Rodri will reply, "Yes, sister, it is wonderful. Let us play."
Orlin, Rodri's gone. What do you do?
Does he glimmer into blue light, or not yet?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. Yeah, he
we'll have
doesn't
an epilogue.
recognize
Maybe he does then. But.
Yeah. If there's nothing, and there's nothing else in the room, it's just the fountain, the woman, and the topiary.
Yeah, it's otherwise a very bare room with torches on the walls.
Yeah,
it's like a chamber, like it's somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to take my kerchief with the berry in it and put it in the torch.
Just burn the.
Yeah. I mean, the kids were smushing the berries, but that helped it, right? That added to the jam.
Yeah.
So if I feel any kind of, what I might be able to do to harm or hurt or save some bare scrap of something for myself, I will try to burn that berry in with my kerchief.
And that triggers a very specific thing in the incursion. You have destroyed the heart of the bramble. And doing so causes the bramble, I mean all of it, to rip out of the ground and send a wild storm of thorns raining down on Kavir. There are screams, terror, as this sort of apocalyptic thing happens to the town. And when this is all said and done, there won't be much of Kavir left at all. Let's go to epilogue. Think about your character's future. Show us any point in the future. Immediately after these moments, sometime down the road, whatever you wish. You're lost to the bramble. Rodri, you are not. Orlin. Take a moment, and whoever wants to narrate their epilogue first, please do.
I'll go second, I think.
I guess immediately I would sort of crawl out of some pit in a slightly, I imagine, pile of this more natural bramble than if some of that supernatural had left. Most of the town is in disarray. Mr. Pertwillow would have been killed in the storm, and I attempt to make my getaway, and I live a not a very fanciful life, but maybe a life on my own for a few years before in my teens then there still have the snake in my belly. So into my teens then I'm sort of drawn back to the bramble where I vomit out or maybe even just explode out into the snake that begins picking up twigs and slowly rebuilding the gate shape like a bird would. Sort of the snake is now ready to start regrowing and reforming the portal.
I love it. Rodri, anything you want to add for your epilogue?
I just imagine Rodri and Diane playing in a very sort of repetitive and simplistic fashion that just repeats with a sort of strange, eerie, unwavering smile on their faces at all times.
Indeed. And so concludes Blackberry Jam. Let's have stars, and we can do wishes. In this context, wishes are just maybe, I don't know, things that you would do differently if you played this incursion again, or you'd want to see if you played this incursion again. But you don't have to have any wishes. It's kind of hard at the end of the thing. But stars for sure. I'll start. I really liked the story a lot. It was really, really good. It was fun. It was fun to role play. It was fun to watch you two and your relationship. I like these characters. They are characters who, in a different context, would be great friends, and they would go on adventures, and they would, and it would be a great, fun, adventurous life. But unfortunately, they found themselves in this place. They found themselves in Trophy Dark, unfortunately. And so that's, they're not going to get that ending. But I like the characters a lot. You both did a really good job role playing them. And and I just like this sort of like the very heavy like fairy tale qualities of this. I mean, Trophy Dark is a fairy tale kind of game anyway, but this like because it's got kids and because it's got like really particular like fairy tale tropes, like stay here with us forever, that kind of thing. I mean, it did, that all came through really nice. I was really happy with it. Wishes, I think the only thing that like it's not a wish so much as I decided quite like in the spur of the moment to make the warrior woman who's cleaning the space an older version of your mom, after having hinted that there's some other story here. And I think the thing that like I want to know is like what was really going on. Right? Like it was very ambiguous the way it played out, and I love that. But I would like to know, like, I have a theory. I have theories formulating, I think, but yeah. So I'd be curious to find out like what the story was. Like, why did the space change like it did? Where was that? Like I imagined it was like, I don't know, she was like a dungeon crawler or something, and she was playing out some something of her own that just happened to implicate your village or something, magic gone awry, but I don't know, that was interesting. But those are my stars and wishes.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I felt like I'd won the golden ticket just playing with you guys. That was fantastic. And I liked in the incursion how it got cinematic set PC. I liked that, it's like, ooh. And the snake was a powerful image. I thought the giant snake, and then the bramble hunter attached to the snake. I thought those two bits in particular, they were like, oh, that just popped in my mind. It was fantastic. Of course, I loved Orlan and his relationship with Rodri. I thought that was fantastic. I really wanted to like die saving him, but that opportunity didn't come up. That's what I was hoping would happen. But it was all fantastic. I really liked it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think for my stars, definitely the fact that our characters got to, I guess, like change but still be true to themselves. Like Rodri got to like find that courage as soon as he like took a couple steps, then he found courage, so he like sort of stepped up in a way, but he was still Rodri, right? And I just kind of liked how we were able to do that. We had fewer scenes sort of, I guess, together, but like we stayed true to what we developed before, and so you could kind of root for them. I think that in a way that I liked that, right? It didn't go where I thought it would.
One thing I thought was, I'm gonna cut you off, but one thing I thought was interesting was, the incursion didn't, I can't remember if is the orphanage thing something that you can pick in character creation?
It was one of the 6 backgrounds.
Right. Okay. So because what I think is interesting is you had that orphan background, and like that's like repeated at ring 4, right? Like, and I thought that was super interesting. And I guess I was gonna say it was happenstance, but it wasn't. The incursion's built that way. Like it's possible for a character to come from an orphanage background, right? And but I thought it was so great the way you reacted when you realized that the relationship between the Lady of the Bramble and the kids was fundamentally abusive, right? Like I thought that was really interesting, and the way you reacted, and it was like that moment. It's written that way in the incursion, but I think what you added to it, your reaction to it, like made it really pop, So I just thought it was a good moment. Sorry, I just wanted to note that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, I guess it'd be how the characters were different, and I thought we would develop in different ways than we did, so I liked that. And then the way that you were able to pull Jules's backstory into everything, like I liked that it became this core that really worked throughout, right? And it felt very natural, I think, in the progression, and wondering who's real, who's not. I mean, I don't know how it ended either, but I kind of, figured like, well, if the mother was there and she had sent a changeling the whole time, and then the sister, it's like, oh, like what is Rodri even? Like, like kind of. So I like that it had all those questions left over, and surprising, but for sure the development of the characters in ways I wasn't expecting, and then that way that you could naturally weave our backstories into it, or at least his. That, I mean, Jules just came up with that on day one, and that was great.
Yeah, the whole Twilith Twag thing was that worked really great. I mean, it dovetailed really nicely with the incursion, which is a sort of fairy tale incursion, right? So I thought that was really, really good. I mean, and we followed the incursion really closely. The only thing that was really the major thing that was different is I fleshed out ring 1. I fleshed out ring 1 to be more about the festival, The incursion actually picks up with the hide and seek game. Like that's where it starts. But I knew we had a little extra time, so I wanted to kind of flesh that out a bit more. But otherwise, like the events that we all went through were more or less in the incursion. I mean, obviously the things that were the result of Devil's Bargains were added by us, but like for the most part, it followed through really nicely, and we were able to, like you said, we were able to work in the various character-based backstory elements into, and the drives into it, and I thought that was really terrific. So if you had to eaten the berry, you would have become the topiary boy. Oh. And basically the old woman kind of mutters like, someone always has to suffer. It's someone has to suffer, and she would go back to scrubbing, and the warrior woman is really interesting. It's not explained in the incursion at all. Like the incursion leaves it completely ambiguous, like who this woman is. But I love that. Like my personal theory is that like all of this was playing out some weird shit going on in her head, you know, like something that she was undergoing, you know, maybe some magical trap or something, you know, like it was her kind of playing it. That's my theory, but it's fun to think about it though. It's fun to think about what was really going on, you know. So, but there's lots of possibilities, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's great. I'm definitely gonna pick that up.
Yeah. Oh well, it's if you back the book, you're gonna get it's in the Trophy Dark book. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Which the PDF will hopefully be done soon. Jesse's computer's in the shop. Like his computer crapped out on him right as we're like getting ready to be done with Trophy Dark. I was like, oh, but anyway. So once he gets it back, we'll be ready to go. Any case, super fun. Thank you all so much. Do we have anything else we want to discuss or talk about? Are we good?
Thanks
good.
again, everybody.